experience, we're going to tell you about a wonderful event that is coming up called Art in the City and how you can get involved. And it's all to help a great cause and a great institution. So we'll tell you about that in just a couple of minutes. But first, we begin with a political candidate because it is that time of year, and Joe McKenna is with us. Joe, thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Hank. I appreciate it.
So you're a Republican from Webster?
Absolutely, yes.
You're running for state rep. Tell me a little bit about this district.
Sure. I'm running for the 18th Worcester District, which is currently served by State Rep Ryan Fatman. Ryan is running for the State Senate, so I'm running to replace him. That district is Sutton, Douglas, the southern two precincts in Oxford, and Webster, which, as you know, is home to Lake Tagagog, Manchagogog, Chabunagunagog. So that is my hometown, and I am very happy to be running in that district.
In order to run in that district, do you have to know how to pronounce?
Absolutely. Many hours in front of the mirror to practice
well,
that.
It was very
Absolutely.
good. It came off perfectly. So tell me a little bit about that, because one of the things that's interesting about central Massachusetts is, I mean, here we are in a state heavily populated, obviously, when it comes to politicians, by Democrats, often referred to as the bluest of blue states. But in central Massachusetts, it seems to be a little bit more purple. And indeed, you're coming from a district that has been represented by a Republican. What do you think is a little different about the makeup, maybe here?
I think there's just going door to door. I've done door to door for quite some time now, and I've actually worked for the past 3 years for State Rep Peter Durant in the 6th Worcester, which is immediately west, also a Republican district. And just talking to the folks, visiting the schools, visiting the businesses in the district, people are just really getting tired of an overburdening government, over-regulation, over-taxes, and they've really had enough. And I think you're seeing a lot of conservative voices come forward, like you mentioned, in the southern Worcester County especially, all the way from Sturbridge and a little bit west of that to Blackstone, and that whole swath is really pretty conservative, and people are buying into that message of individual liberties and freedoms and getting the government out of the way so that people can make ends meet.
I mean, so you really do think that, I mean, that there is a Republican and a Democratic message, and people are kind of, buying into that Republican message of lower government, as opposed to, they're just voting for the person. I mean, in other words, you knock on the door and they like you better than whoever the Democrat is going to be in the race. But I mean, it's really about some of these bedrock ideas?
Just the messages. We get emails and phone calls constantly through the office of Rep Durant, and it's over and over and over again. Just, we've had enough. And talking to folks out and around, there certainly is that personal level of connection that you have to connect to the voters. Right. But I really do feel that message is starting to spread and really gain momentum.
Interesting. All right. So there's clearly this divide between why you have an R next to your name and somebody else would have a D next to their name. If elected, give me let's hit 3 things in the time that we have.
Sure.
Number one thing that you would do if you were elected that you really want to go to Beacon Hill for.
Sure. The biggest thing is the economy, jobs in the economy, and that is nothing new. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's taking those ideas that have been proposed over the past 6 to 8 years and implementing them. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of good ideas proposed that haven't moved forward. Things like lightening the insurance requirements for businesses, lightening the regulatory load that businesses face, reducing the amount of targeted taxes. The tech tax, for example, was a tax targeted at an industry that was just an utter failure, and I think it took 2 or 3 weeks to be repealed because the government that passed it said, oh, that wasn't such a good idea.
I don't think anybody understood it when they passed it.
It was the old Nancy Pelosi.
You
have to pass the law to see what's in it. That was research that really needed to be done before to see what policies being handed down from the government, what impact that's going to have on the business community. So there's a number of things. Providing incentives for businesses to hire veterans, to hire unemployed, to hire disabled. Will get people, that will help the businesses and will get people back to work. Providing incentives to hire those who are here on student visas will bring the highly trained people and keep them in Massachusetts. If we're going to be educating people in Massachusetts, we might as well keep them here when they're highly trained and highly skilled. And making it easier to do business here rather than go to Connecticut, Rhode Island.
So you're right. So not reinventing the wheel. People have heard these. I mean, these are some real core things that the people would like to see, whether from a Republican or a Democrat. How does Joe McKenna get that done? I mean, how do you make it less onerous for businesses in Massachusetts if you're elected?
Well, again, it's supporting those policies, and in 2010 we had a jump from 15 to 30 Republican representatives. So we doubled our number. Now, while that's still a very small majority of the House, you started to see the conversation on Beacon Hill change, and the taxes have rolled back. The Speaker made a pledge, no new taxes, because he knew that the voice in his House was starting to become a little more conservative. I think we're going to see another big jump in 2014, and that conversation is going to come back again for the right. So just supporting those policies is something that I'd be proud to do, and I think that my voice added to those conservative members will really play well.
It's interesting, I mean, as you sort of talk about these conservative ideas, that they talk about a Republican wave that is going to be coming across the country. Maybe the Republicans take control in the Senate, for example, a number of pickups in the House. But at this level, even in Massachusetts, I mean, is that part of the Republican wave that we're seeing nationwide, or it's something that's just happening in Massachusetts?
Absolutely, and again, it goes back to those conversations you have going door to door. I think Massachusetts has a lot of the same factors as that national Republican wave. If you look at Massachusetts, federally first, you've got a very unpopular president right now with the IRS scandal, Benghazi still looming, just a number of scandals, and he's just a damaged entity.
Does that? But those, I mean, those are big national issues.
That's national,
right?
If you look here domestic, I think Deval Patrick's popularity is starting to ebb, and you've got countless just scandals and corruption at the state level through the executive branch. The drug lab scandal, the compounding scandal, the Obamacare, the Romney Care rollout, how the Commonwealth had to rewrite its technology to adopt to the Obamacare. When we went from being, whether you agreed with Romney Care or not, we were effective at getting people insured. Because we had to rewrite the system in Massachusetts to adopt to Obamacare, we are now the lowest state in meeting its targets for Obamacare rollout. So there's just a number of issues that people are just getting hammered with, and there very much is that feeling of we need a change.
Joe, I'm always interested in people's personal stories. I mean, you know, there's 1,000 people who would like to be state rep. The problem is that then they have to go out and knock on all the doors and run and actually go out and get elected. So then we end up with very few people who will actually do that. What got you motivated enough to, I mean, to go out there? I understand that you're involved in politics and you've been working for Peter Durant, but to really want to do all of the hard work to get elected.
Well, to just a very quick background on myself, I grew up in Charlton, had a very tight family, grew up in the church, and then went to Bentley University and studied economics and finance at Bentley. So I feel that I had a strong foundation of economic principles that when I went to Beacon Hill and started working with Peter, I was surprised. In my estimation, there didn't seem to be a lot of that common sense. The common sense ideas, a lot of times it felt like weren't really being taken on. And working there for 3 years, it sounds really cliche, but I felt like we can do better. And right now in my life, I'm in a position where I have the time, I have the energy, and I saw an opportunity to run with Ryan moving forward and said, you know, if I say we can do better, I might as well step up to the plate and put my money where my mouth is and run.
It's interesting, you also talk about your economic background. A lot of Republicans in Massachusetts, run, and they run on these core fiscal issues.
Sure.
Charlie Baker, for example, I mean, a lot of his campaign really seems to be focused around the fiscal issues, and seem to want to stay away from the social issues. Just as a matter of sort of strategy, I mean, do you hear that a lot? Do you get advice to stay away from the social issues, or the social issues that Republicans in Massachusetts may not be in the same place as Republicans nationally on a lot of those issues?
Well, I think that those are conversations that we've had in years past, and whether you agree or not, they are the quote settled law. Economic principles are moving forward what we really can use to change the country. That being said, I'm not going to back down from conservative positions and having that conversation, but I think that the conversation on the economic principles, on getting people back to work, on making sure that our college graduates have jobs ready for them when they graduate, making sure that our businesses are able to employ people and to grow and stay here in Massachusetts, those are the issues that will make Massachusetts a much stronger state, and the ones that people going door to door really want to talk about. So that really is the focus.
People can find out about where you stand on the issues by going to your website.
Yes, electjoemckenna.com.
Very good. We have just a minute left here, but what do you find? You told us about some of the things that you're running on. You told us about some of the things that you're hearing. Number one, I mean, when you go to door to door and you're talking to people, is it jobs? I mean, aren't people still talking about jobs, or what is it that they really say to you?
Really, the one line, and it's pretty ambiguous, but people just say, we've had enough. And that kind of, it's a broad brush, but that to me means we've had enough of the taxes, the regulation, the overburdening government, telling you what you can do and where you can do it, things like that. So just a smaller, more accountable, more transparent government that allows people the liberty to live their lives and make their decisions for themselves is really what I'm here to try and represent.
Joe McKenna, thank you so much for coming by and telling us about why you're running.
I appreciate it.
Much more to come right here on the Stolz Experience.